We appreciate all of the guests who have appeared on our show and sincerely thank them for providing you, our audience, with useful information. However, the advice our guests provide is theirs, and we encourage you to seek out a professional if you have specific questions about any topic we cover on the Crushing Debt Podcast. On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, donating your real estate.
Welcome to the Crushing Debt Podcast with your host, Florida attorney Sean Yesner, where our goal is to help you get rid of the financial bullies in your life.
So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and I would normally at this point welcome your financial coach, George Curbelo, but George is not here today. Unfortunately, he had a work commitment come up and could not be here for recording, but we will soldier on without him. He will be back on next week's episode, and I'm sure whatever he's doing, he's helping a lot of people restructure their budgets and helping a lot of people to get out of debt and get their budgets and their lives a little bit back under control. So we miss you this week, George, but we'll see you next week. So I do have a guest, which is why we are pursuing on anyway and recording anyway. And you know, for those of you that have been longtime listeners, George only joined me a few months ago, so I think I can do this by myself. I do have a guest for you on this week's show. Now, before we get there, I do want to talk about our sponsors real quick. Our first one is Mark Purvis. Mark has been with us since the very beginning, even before George. Mark has been with us. Mark is our editor, and he's got a website called legacyspotlight.com. So if you want to preserve the stories of future generations, either for yourself or for your kids, or preserve past generation stories for yourself or your kids, contact Mark. It's legacyspotlight.com. He's a videographer with over 20 years experience, an award-winning videographer, and he can come out and make it fun and help you preserve and record all those family stories and other things that you want to capture. Legacyspotlight.com. However, I am excited to get to this week's guest. She is originally from Washington State and relocated to the Tampa Bay area in 2006 and has become deeply rooted as an accomplished realtor holding multiple designations, a few of which are an accredited buyer representative, a seller representative specialist, a certified luxury home marketing specialist, and most recently the first charitable real estate champion in Pinellas County. She's a realtor with RE/MAX Preferred out in St. Pete Beach. Welcome my guest, Cherie Buell. Welcome, Cherie.
Thank you, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I do want to give out your contact information real quick. Your number, 727-266-6530. And again, all this I'll put in the notes for anyone who's listening. Or it's yourluxuryhomesold.com. And your email address is cheriebuell.realtor@gmail.com. And I'll spell it again real quick. CHERIE, B as in boy, UELL. .realtor, REALTOR @gmail.com. So cheriebuell.realtor@gmail.com. Again, all this will be in the notes if anyone's interested in taking down your information and giving you a buzz. But what we wanted to talk about today, donating real estate. So when I was first introduced to you, it was from this perspective of donating real estate. And, you know, we talked before recording, and you know, my first thought is, isn't this something that's just really available for the ultra rich? And we're going to talk about why that's not necessarily the case. But why don't we start with, what is the charitable gifting of real estate?
Yeah, that is a question that most people have. Most people actually don't even know that it's a thing, which is, you know, super interesting. Even realtors, we don't know. And I actually had met this woman, Cammie Baker, who she is this champion for the subject. She started this nonprofit called Real Agents of Change, and their sole purpose is to educate people on this subject of charitable gifting of real estate. So, did you know that last year alone, $9 billion was donated in gifts of real estate? I mean, that is a huge number, right?
$9 billion with a B.
Yes,
And
$1 billion.
Is this all over the country? Is this just the state of Florida?
This is national, so in the United States.
Okay, so in 2021, $9 billion of real estate donated.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? Is it houses? Is it commercial property? Is it vacant land?
It's all of the above.
All the above.
It can be anything, anywhere in the world. It can be anything. It's not just for the ultra rich. It's for anybody. Anyone at all who either has a piece of property that they feel they would like to give to their favorite charity, or it could be, for a corporation that needs some tax write-offs, whatever. It can be anyone at all. So it's something that a nonprofit organization can accept through this other specialized nonprofit, but we'll get to that in a minute. Essentially, traditional fundraising, everyone knows about traditional fundraising. Like, I'm sure that you have been to one of these beautiful galas, like Make-A-Wish Foundation. They have this black tie event.
Right.
It's super fun. And there will always be those events. They raise a lot of money at those. I went to one a couple of years ago, and they raised probably $250,000 and, for Make-A-Wish Foundation. But think about the amount of effort and energy that goes into putting on one of those events. I mean, I think Bret Michaels performed.
Wow.
The expensive dinner, and it was gorgeous and fun. But it takes months and tons of people and money and time to put on these fundraisers, right? So the average gift of real estate nets about $550,000. And essentially, the nonprofit just doesn't have to do a thing, and they just get a check.
Does it have to be unencumbered? In other words, free and clear without a mortgage real estate?
No. There is a specialty, there's several specialty nonprofits, but the nonprofit organization that the Real Agents of Change partnered with is this amazing nonprofit, and their name is Realty Gift Fund. So Realty Gift Fund, what's so great about them is that they don't keep hardly any of the money for their own operating expenses. They give about 90 to 95% of the net funds from the sale go to the donor's nonprofit of choice, which is really cool.
It sounds like what you're saying is, instead of me saying, I've got this piece of real estate, I want to donate it to my church, my synagogue, my temple, my whatever. Instead of doing that, what I do is I donate the property to some third party, I guess the Realty Gift Fund or somewhere else, and then they convert that property into cash and give the cash to the charity.
That's exactly right. But what we're trying to do is educate not just donors, but nonprofits, because most nonprofits cannot directly accept real estate. It's complicated transaction. There's a lot going on. If, it could have a mortgage, it could need repairs. They have a nonprofit to run. They don't have time for that. They don't even have the personnel that could handle something like that. So actually, it's even written in their bylaws, most of them, that they can't take it.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is educate people about this tax law that was actually introduced in 1917, believe it or not.
Wow.
To incentivize folks to get this nice tax deduction. So how it really works is, let's pretend that you had a piece of property that you wanted to donate. You would go and you would get an appraisal done on the property, and that would be the basis for your tax deduction.
Okay.
So that full amount is deducted against your adjusted gross income, which could be, that's a significant tax deduction. And you wouldn't have to pay capital gains, obviously, on any of the appreciated value, because you're not making any money off of it.
Yeah, so not only is it something feel good, I'm donating to my favorite charity, but it's also, I get a tax break because of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, I want to be clear, I am not a tax attorney. You're not a CPA, although you have a bunch of knowledge of how this works. So if you are interested in looking into this, definitely give Cherie a buzz. but also double check with your CPA to make sure that everything is done properly so that you're aware of the tax advantages or tax benefits you're going to get, and that everything is documented properly for tax purposes.
Absolutely. There is another thing you can do as well, and the whole gift does not have to be given to one charity. It can be given, you can split it up to multiple charities. You can keep some of the money back for yourself. Of course, you have to pay tax, on any appreciated gains there.
Right.
But, there's multiple ways of doing it. An example is people have donated strip malls. They've donated restaurant space that was sitting there empty. And, this guy, there's one example I know where he had a restaurant space in Albuquerque, and he'd owned it for 30 years, and he closed the restaurant, and it was sitting there for 5 years. He was paying money on this place and decided to donate it to Realty Gift Fund and take the tax break on it, and because it had appreciated in value over that time, like significantly, and he was going to have a ton of taxes that he was going to have to pay on it, and it was better for him to donate it. So, but just imagine the lives that can be changed with that type of funding to a nonprofit. I mean, imagine your church getting a gift of real estate and, having a $500,000 check come through, and they didn't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. All they have to do is get the money. We
said you could do this with any kind of property, commercial, residential, vacant land, industrial, whatever. But are there any qualifications? We also talked about the property could be free and clear. It could have a mortgage on it. Are there any particular qualifications that would make one property better or worse than another?
That's where Realty Gift Fund comes in. So they do an analysis of the property to make sure that it's going to be something that's saleable and that's going to work. They will pay the mortgage on it. They will pay for the repairs that need to be done to put it on the market so it can get the top dollar that you can for the property. Because the goal, obviously, is to have the largest amount of money that you can net from this place to go to the charity.
Charity of your choice, right.
So they will go over everything, and they fill out an application, essentially, and have the appraised value of the property done. And then at closing, when the title transfers, that's where they get the net funds, and then that's given to one charity, multiple charities, however it's going to work out. But
is this something that you would want to maybe put in your estate plan?
Yes.
Okay.
So financial advisors can be amazing champions for this specific topic. And a lot of them don't honestly really know about this either, quite honestly. I mean, they're amazing at everything they do, but this can be something for a lot of their, especially high net worth clients, that they should be helping them understand that could be an extreme advantage to them financially. And, just for the fact that a lot of people love to give money to charity, but they're handing over cash, right? So if you're handing over cash, that's taking money directly out of your pocket that you could be using for something else, where you might want to take a second home. Let's say you have had a cabin in North Carolina, and, you've had it all these years, and you want to donate that, to the SPCA or something, but they can't take it. So this is the perfect solution, because now this is where Realty Gift Fund steps in, and they can just handle the whole thing for you and liquidate that property, and then the funds can go to the SPCA, and all those little dogs and cats can be saved, or any number of amazing charities. Did you know there's 8,000 nonprofit organizations in Pinellas County alone?
I did not know that, but sometimes I feel like I get hit up by a lot of them.
Right, and they're all desperate for funding.
Yeah.
So that's why the nonprofits need to be educated about this subject, because they can let their donors know, who they don't know either, that now there's a new way that they can help fund their favorite nonprofit. And you would be surprised at the number of people. You could donate a ranch. You could donate commercial property.
And the thing that I guess when we were first introduced and I first started thinking about this, it was more, in my mind, it was, okay, I'm going to deed my property to this charity that I want to have the property. And so it really, the light bulb, I think, finally clicked with me when I'm not necessarily, I guess I could work with my estate attorney, my financial advisor, my tax person. I could work with them and set up some kind of deed, life estate deed, trust, whatever, that says, hey, when I die, the title to my house goes to such and such church. Or I can do it this way, and I can use the Realty Gift Fund as the intermediary to say, okay, let's say I have multiple properties, or let's say I don't have kids that would inherit this property, or something else happens. I could literally say, okay, I want to use the Realty Gift Fund to then filter the money that I make, the equity that I have in this house, to all these various charities, either while I'm alive so I can take advantage of some tax savings, or after I'm gone so that I know that these charities benefit in the way that I want them to benefit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So gifts of complex assets allow you to retain liquid assets for your lifestyle, so you can do that, and then it just transfers the wealth to the next generation, right? So family philanthropy is something where you can repurpose a property you no longer use by converting it to a charitable gift. So you can fund a giving account that grows tax-free and serves as a source of cash grants that you and your family can make over generations. So financial advisors can help you can assist you in these estate planning things. So you could either do it while you're alive, or you can have a plan for when, after you pass on.
Well, something else you said, if I wanted to, it's no secret, I'm wearing my FSU polo as we record this. It's game weekend. Anyone who's been listening to the show for any length of time knows I'm a big FSU fan. But I could literally say I want to take my real estate and I want to turn it into cash, and I want to use that cash to create some type of scholarship, some type of
Absolutely.
Fund for FSU's benefit, for this kind of student's benefit. So this really has applications in any kind of giving capacity.
Yeah, it does. I mean, literally, you're leaving a legacy. You're leaving a legacy that is going to benefit so many people, and it's transformational change. There's a really good example. This woman, she was sending $25 a month to her favorite charity, like Wildlife Foundation or something like that, for years. And she found out about charitable gifting of real estate, had absolutely no idea. So this woman, who, you would say would be a relatively small donor, right? Amazing, but regular. Right. She had a rental property that she no longer wanted to deal with. And so she decided, she sold it, and it went through Realty Gift Fund, and was able to give this, several $100,000 gift to this same charity. So, it's like I'm saying, it could be for
Right.
anybody. The same donor, you would never think this person would be able to do something that amazing.
So I've been involved in real estate law now pretty much since the beginning of my career, which I'm going to date myself, was 1998. How come I haven't heard about this until just now? How come I'm just now getting lucky enough?
Exactly. Right. I felt the same way when I first found out about it. So Cammie Baker, she came in. I was actually in St. Pete Beach at the community center, and every Thursday morning I go to this pitch meeting where we realtors go in, and there's a special speaker, and we tell each other about our upcoming listings and buyer needs and stuff like that.
I've been to a bunch of them before, yeah.
So she came in and gave a presentation about this subject. Now, she wrote this book called Real Estate is Hot, Fundraising is Not, right? Really funny. And she actually travels around the country educating people on this subject, because her goal is to try to get that 2% of charitable gifting of real estate up to 6%, which would raise we talked about that $9 billion number.
That $9 billion is only 2% of all of the money donated last year.
Right. Wow. And so, if more people were educated, and more nonprofit organizations were educated, more financial advisors were educated, people like yourself were educated about this subject, then nonprofits could be taking in a lot more money without having to lift a finger to do anything for it. So, even though all of these amazing fundraisers, that we have everywhere all the time, they'll still go on, Those won't change. But
I just got done last weekend, a golf fundraiser. I just sent in a couple bucks to another client of mine that's having a golf fundraiser. So I don't think these kinds of the black tie events, the golf events, the dinners, I know the Palm Harbor Chamber of Commerce does their
People love those.
Their mayoral, which is not really an elected mayor, but they just do it to see who can raise the most. That kind of stuff isn't going away.
No.
But if we can kind of supplement that or pump that up with some other creative ideas like this.
Yeah. I mean, imagine the lives that can be changed. Like, there are, in Pinellas County, there are some homes for women who have been through sex trafficking and things like that. And these people definitely need money, to be able to properly care for these people. And they need to rehabilitate them. And imagine if they got a gift like that, what they could do.
Yeah.
What you could do for your church, what you could do for the university, the scholarship. It's just, April is National Legacy Listing Month. Huh. So that's actually something that Cammie Baker herself, I kind of got sidetracked there.
Right.
So I met this woman, and she came in and did this presentation, and she herself had gone to a presentation somewhere, and she couldn't believe she'd never heard of it either. The fact that this has been around since 1917. But the honest truth is the reason why we probably haven't heard about it is because 95% of nonprofits can't take it. They can't directly accept real estate. So it's really not...
So it's
You're
not...
not getting hit up about it because they can't do it until recently. It was only 2019 that Realty Gift Fund was formed. So it's kind of a new and amazing way to have this third-party nonprofit organization that's specializing in just this. And now, anybody can take advantage of doing this.
Yeah, and it's not, like I said, my first impression was I'm going to deed this real estate to this charity, but that's not how it works. So you keep mentioning 1917. Is that when the tax laws came into effect that allow this?
The IRS created this tax deduction to incentivize people to give money to charity and therefore get this amazing tax deduction. Being able to take the entire appraised value from a piece of property against your adjusted gross income is pretty sweet.
You mentioned Real Agents of Change.
Yes. What
is that, or who are they?
So that's the organization. It's a nonprofit that Cammie Baker herself, this woman who wrote that book, Real Estate's Hot, Fundraising is Not, she formed this organization to educate realtors, nonprofit organizations, and donors themselves about this amazing subject. And so she actually has a certification program that you can go through and take to become a specialist. That's what I did, to become I'm a champion for this subject because it's near and dear to my heart. And she just trying to get the word out, essentially. And so she's worked with a lot of huge nonprofit organizations, the Goodwill. She's been on many, many shows, and she travels around the nation just trying to educate as many people, because once you have this information, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
You need to tell people about it, right? One of my favorite people that she connected with is this professor, Dr. Russell James, and he's a professor at Texas Tech University, and he actually directs an on-campus and online graduate program in charitable financial planning. And he also teaches charitable gift law. So he actually revolutionized the way nonprofits approach marketing planned gifts. So he researches brain activity in fundraising prospects. Isn't that interesting? Huh. Especially the prospects' brain activity when they're solicited for traditional gifts versus planned gifts. So I think that's very interesting. So he's doing some psychology there on how people react. So if, thinking about taking, let's say you open your wallet and you take cash out and you give it to someone.
Right.
Now you don't have that cash. You can't use it for anything else. But if you think about your estate and you're like, oh, okay, I have this piece of property that's not taking cash out of your bank account that could be used for something else. That is earmarked, and you can use it.
I think that was a big light bulb for me when I first started. Again, I would be like at an FSU football game, and they would announce at halftime, here are the 4 or 5 donors that have donated $1 million to FSU. And I always thought to myself, they're not saving up $1 million and then going to the university and saying, here it is. A lot of times what that is, that I really didn't realize until I started looking into this 20 plus years ago, they would either get a life insurance policy that when they die, the life insurance policy cashes out at $1 million, and the beneficiary of that policy is the university. Or maybe it's something like this, where they say, I've got this piece of property that's worth $1 million, and when I die, it's going to go here so that it can be liquidated, so that the proceeds can go here. That's how these people are recognized as having donated. Some of them, maybe, I assume, have $1 million laying around. I guess there's people that are that rich.
I wish.
But I think most of it is either the gift giving through real estate or gift giving through life insurance policy. It's that plan that when I go, the lady you mentioned earlier of instead of giving $25 a week or $25 a month or whatever it was, when I'm gone, Charity, you get X from the sale of my real estate. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, when you're gone or when you're alive, either way, it's amazing. That strip mall I was talking about before that this guy, had, that he ended up deciding he was an investor, and, he realized that it really wasn't a good part of his portfolio anymore. It was losing money on it. He took that strip mall and donated it to charity, and there was $2.4 million that he ended up netting off of that. Now, that could have been a loss for him, but he was able to take that money and he actually distributed it to 20 different charities.
Wow.
But like you said, here's that giant chunk of cash that can go and save and transform lives. And, how would you like to be responsible for transformational change in somebody's life? I mean, that is just an incredible concept to me, and I'm sure anybody. It isn't just a feel-good thing. This is literally saving lives.
It's a legacy, like you said.
It's a legacy.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. I love talking about it and educating people. And it's really, near and dear to my heart. My personal goal is to help raise $1 million this year through, and that's not difficult to do. It's a couple properties.
Yeah, it's only a couple properties.
And
cool.
Realtors, actually, Realty Gift Fund pays realtors a full commission. So, any realtors that are out there that are listening to this, getting involved and get a certification to be a specialist here, you can help change lives and still get paid. They're not trying to be cheap. It's part of the cost of liquidating the property.
Exactly.
So, it's a big deal. And financial advisors out there listening, you could be having a donor advised fund. You could be the administrator of that. So, that's something that you could be helping your wealthy people know about. And any nonprofit organizations, you can be just letting your donors know through your regular means, marketing, newsletters, whatever you're doing, that, hey, we can now accept gifts of real estate.
Nice.
And that, Seabird Sanctuary or whatever it is that you love, those people, they are always in desperate need of funding.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it is, whatever charity you're involved in, whatever's near and dear, I'm sure they can always use a little bit of extra cash. Is there anything sort of as we get towards the end, is there anything that I didn't ask you? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
I just want to encourage people, now that you have this knowledge, just to absolutely get out there and, you have questions, you contact me. I'd be happy to go over it with you, or just start talking about it. I think the more that we as a society start discussing these subjects and the more educated we become, the better we are. We're only as good as, if you don't know about something, you don't know about it. But once you know,
you don't know what you don't
you
know.
don't even know what you don't know.
Right.
But I just feel like once you know about something as powerful as this, then it's important that we start discussing it, asking questions, and getting those donations in the door, because we all know how hard we work at these nonprofit fundraisers. And, or if you just, you want to donate property yourself, or, you need a tax write-off, this is something that you should talk to somebody about right away.
Absolutely. So again, I'll give your contact information real quick, but it'll also be in the notes for anyone who's listening. Cherie's number is 727-266-6530. Her website is yourluxuryhomesold.com. Her email is cheriebuell.realtor@gmail.com. And again, I'll put it all in the notes if you are wondering how to spell it. I'll get that all in there. You can look it up there. I do want to talk real quick about our second sponsor. His name is Sam Cohen. You've heard me talk about him on previous episodes. Sam owns Attorneys First Insurance, and Attorneys First does errors and omissions insurance or malpractice insurance, but only for attorneys and title companies all over the country. I know he's got a focus on Florida, Texas, and Alaska, but he can literally help an attorney or a title company anywhere in the country to get insurance, even if they've had a claim against them in the past. So if you are starting up a law firm or a title company, or if you own a law firm and a title company or a title company and it's time to renew your insurance, give Sam a buzz. You can reach out to Sam at attorneysfirst.com, which is also their website, attorneysfirst.com. The only other things I think I need to plug, George would be upset with me if I didn't plug his TikTok page, the Curbelo Financial TikTok page. We are creating more content, both for the podcast, for our YouTube channels, for his TikTok page. So definitely check out his advice over at the Curbelo Financial TikTok. We do also have a Patreon page up and running, so those of you that want to support us more so than just listening to an episode, you can go over to Patreon. There's different things you can do to support the show there over at Patreon, and as we start to roll out different things for the different levels we have going on there. And I think we've got to the end of this week's episode. So thank you, Cherie, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
Yeah, and so normally I say at the end of the show, when you want more money at the end of the month rather than more month at the end of the money, this week's episode would probably apply to charities or to people that want to give. But I think that'll do it for this week's episode, and we look forward to talking to you in next week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.
If you have questions that you think would make a great topic for a future episode, please email Sean or connect with us on social media. Sean Yesner and Yesner Law, PL, are Florida licensed attorneys. The information contained in this week's episode is not a substitute for legal advice. Your situation may differ, especially if you are located somewhere other than the state of Florida. If you have questions, please contact our office or contact a local attorney. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast.